Welcome to our YouTube channel dedicated to military affairs in Ukraine. Explore the latest updates, in-depth analysis, and captivating stories about the Ukrainian armed forces. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button to support our channel. Join our YouTube channel to delve into the world of Ukrainian military. From exclusive interviews with military experts to on-the-ground coverage of defense events, we bring you comprehensive insights. Subscribe and show your support by liking our videos. Looking for an authoritative source on military matters in Ukraine? Subscribe to our YouTube channel for regular updates, informative videos, and engaging discussions. Hit the subscribe and like buttons to stay connected with the latest in Ukrainian military affairs.
I want to address 4 areas that to me seem problematic. I want to get your insight on them. According to news outlets in Dubai, the country of Iran has just announced it can now domestically produce hypersonic ballistic missiles to defend itself or to sell to the highest bidder. Do you think, with everything going on with Saudi Arabia pulling back from the United States, Iran deepening its ties with Putin and Russia, with bad blood towards the United States, does this capability of domestically producing a hypersonic ballistic missile, does this pose a problem for the United States or for the world?
Well, it poses a problem for the United States and Israel. Look, Iran's in the business of bettering relations with Saudi Arabia. They're not building this missile to threaten Saudi Arabia. They're not building this missile to threaten any of their Arab neighbors. But we have to be real here. Israel has been carrying out attacks against Iran for decades now. They've been assassinating Iranian scientists. They've been using covert means to blow up Iranian facilities, both those related to nuclear and to ballistic missile development. Now, if we were in the United States and a nation was assassinating our scientists and blowing up our facilities, we'd bomb the heck out of them. But the problem is, with Iran bombing Israel, many of their missiles might have been shot down by the Israeli Iron Dome system. And then you open yourself up for retaliation from Israel. With this hypersonic missile, Iran has built a system that can't be shot down by the Israelis, which means that if Israel continues to push red lines, Iran will be able to decisively strike Israel in a non-nuclear fashion. So in many ways, this makes the region even safer because it creates real deterrence on the part of Iran. Iran can tell Israel that if you attack us, we will destroy significant parts of your society, your military, your government in ways that you can't respond to. You can't prevent this from happening. And with the United States, it's the same thing. Iran is saying that if you attack us, and remember, one of the things that Donald Trump is being accused of right now is retaining a secret war plan drawn up by General Milley to attack Iran. So it's not that Iran's making stuff up. Iran's sitting there going, you have a war plan to attack us. You actually were planning on doing this. And if you know anything about the military, once that war plan exists, then it exists today, which means the Biden administration has a war plan to attack Iran, which means Iran must develop the means necessary to deter that. And they do that by developing this weapon system that the United States cannot defend against. So that if we attack Iran, every American installation within 1,400 kilometers of Iran is susceptible to being destroyed by this missile that we can't defend against. So in many ways, this system actually makes the region safer, but it'll be very frustrating for the United States and Israel because we are not used to conceding anything to anybody. We like situations to be resolved on our terms, dictated from the standpoint of what improves American security posture, and allowing Iran to not take control, but to dominate the region is not in the current best interest of American security posture. We need to be in control of that region. I would say in the long term, though, this is a good thing because the United States really doesn't need to have the Fifth Fleet operating out of Bahrain. We don't need to have tactical combat aircraft operating out of Qatar and Oman. That it would be better for the world for us to withdraw our military from that area and start working with Saudi Arabia and Iran and other nations constructively with joint economic interests in mind. There's no longer a schism between Saudi Arabia and Iran for the U.S. to exploit from a military standpoint. They're making peace. So maybe it's time for the United States to talk about making peace as well. And it would be in our best interest because we have alienated Saudi Arabia to the extent that they are cutting oil production right now in a way that's going to have a detrimental impact on the economy of the United States. It used to be we could pick up the phone and the Saudis would adjust oil production to meet the economic best interests of the United States. It's now at the point where Saudi Arabia doesn't care what the United States thinks anymore. They're going to cut production to raise prices, which not only benefits them, but it benefits Russia. And remember, our goal with economic sanctions is to strangle Russia, to try and cut off access to Russian energy. And we've been successful in closing down some markets, but that success is reversed the moment prices go up because now Russia can sell less gas at a higher price and make the same amount of money they made before.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Thank you for your insight on that. In the last few days, a Chinese warship came at a U.S. destroyer. And then at the last minute, about 150 yards out, it turned. Seemed like a giant game of chicken with China flexing their muscles. Do you believe we will eventually go to war with China? And if yes, how would the U.S. military fare against China, seeing that the United States and China are so far apart because of the ocean?
Well, first, let's talk about what the Chinese are doing. The United States has, for a long time now, spoken about what we call freedom of navigation. That is, that we cannot allow any nation to deny America access to international waters. And we view the Taiwan Strait separating Taiwan from China as international waters. And so we frequently send American warships through the Taiwan Straits as a show of force designed to intimidate China. China's made it clear that those days are over. And so what they're doing is they're making sure that every American warship that transits the Taiwan Straits understands that there will be an incident, that it's no longer freedom of navigation. There will be a price, and they are going to continue to aggressively challenge American warships. And their goal is to get America to stop sending warships through the Taiwan Strait. Now, America, we can't back down like that because that's a loss of face. It's a defeat. So this is a very precipitous situation. But the one thing that controls it is the reality that we cannot win a war against China. I know that there are a lot of people listening right now who say, "What are you talking about?" Of course we can. We're America, biggest, most powerful navy in the world, and all that. Remember, we just had a conversation about the Iranian hypersonic missile and how nothing can shoot it down. I want Americans to understand that the Chinese have hypersonic missiles and we can't shoot them down. These missiles are designed to take out American warships hundreds of miles away from Taiwan. So as our fleet closes in on an area of concern, the Chinese have the ability to sink our ships before they get there, and there's nothing we can do. They say, well, what about the American Air Force? Well, where's it going to fly from? American aircraft to threaten China have to come from Guam, have to come from Japan. If you think about it, you have to fill them up with gasoline, with aviation fuel, which means at some point in time, you have to have tankers in the sky to refuel them. Those tankers require a combat air patrol to protect them, or else the tankers will get shot down. So the plane gets refueled, then it has to go in and do its mission, but it can only be on target for a certain amount of time before it has to return back to be refueled. So this isn't about Americans coming over and just loitering over the battlefield as we've done in Afghanistan and Iraq with no surface-to-air missile, no air-to-air missile, air-to-air confrontation. This is about going into an airspace that's heavily defended, heavily contested. We will not have the advantage. The Chinese will be launching from mainland China. They will have greater loiter area, greater operational freedom, and they will have the benefit of air defense network that extends into the envelope of confrontation. The fact of the matter is, in a conventional war between China and the United States, we will lose decisively. It will be ugly. We are capable of doing damage. Taiwan will be destroyed. And think of it from the Taiwanese perspective. They're looking at Ukraine right now, saying that's a nation that America guaranteed their security. We guaranteed their security. That's a nation America provided weapons and training to. And look at Ukraine. It's destroyed. It's gone. Do we want that? And the answer is no. So I think Taiwanese reticence. Remember, in November 2024, there's not just an election here in the United States, there's an election in Taiwan. And right now, the political party that has the inside track is the Kuomintang party, the opposition. And instead of talking about American weapons and American assistance, they're actually sending delegations to China to work on peaceful cooperation and reintegration. So I think this is a problem that will solve itself politically in November of 2024.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. That's good to know. Not only from, how would we fare based on the distance and our capabilities, but also, is it a fight we really want where, like you say, the political party in Taiwan that has the advantage right now may want to reunify with China anyway? And it's like, why are we going to go fight and lose American lives if part of the island wants to go back to China anyway? So thank you for that insight. Okay, let's bring it back home. Depending on how you vote or where you live, some say there's a crisis at the southern border here in the United States. Others say there isn't. The reality is there's millions of illegal immigrants flooding into the country, many of them being shipped to the East Coast. Fentanyl is pouring across the border. Biden moved some U.S. military troops, but gave them no authority, just proximity to the border. But a new poll shows that the vast majority of Americans want the U.S. military on the southern border, and they want them to go after the drug cartels to remove this fentanyl crisis. Do you ever see the U.S. military being deployed here at home on our border in order to strengthen it and protect it like we do other borders?
I will say to people listening is that's the last thing we want is the American military operating on American soil as a combat force, because it's a combat force. It's not a police force. Yes, we have military police, but the U.S. military is organized, trained, equipped to wage war. Back when I was in the Marine Corps back in the 1990s, I was with a unit that we helped facilitate the provision of select Marine Corps capability to the Border Patrol to help secure the border. Just what they're talking about now. We would send force recon units. We would send intelligence units, et cetera, to assist with this. And there was a tragic incident where in a known smuggling zone, there was an American citizen of Mexican origin who was walking with his, I think, goat herd, and he had a 22 rifle. He was plinking, meaning as he walks, he shoots a cactus. And unfortunately for him, the Marine recon team was in camouflage position there, and they were taking what they call effective fire because he was shooting at the cactus they were using to camouflage themselves. They returned fire and they killed him, an American citizen. That's what's going to happen if you put the American military on the border with Mexico. American citizens will be killed by the American military. Do we need to do something about the border? Of course we do. We absolutely have to. But I'm just saying to the American people that you don't want the military there, because one of two things are going to happen. The military is going to kill American citizens, or two, the military will have to become something other than the military, which means we are going to turn them into something that they're not designed to be, a domestic protection force. And if we do that, understand that we can't unplug them and then plug them into a war situation overseas. Our military exists to protect us from foreign threats, military threats. We're designed to close with and destroy the enemy through firepower and maneuver. What's needed on the border is more of a law enforcement policing role combined with effective diplomacy. We need to be engaging more effectively with the Mexican government about trying to solve the problem in Mexico before it becomes an American problem. We need to secure the border in an effective fashion, but the problem has become politicized. We've allowed politics to get in the way of a genuine dialogue about what's best for America. And this situation is out of control, and it's a humanitarian disaster. Whatever you feel about illegal immigrants, at the end of the day, they're human beings.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, human beings are suffering. Now, we may say that that's not our problem, but it is our problem because we are the United States of America. We are a people of high moral character, and we have to look out for how can we justify sending military aid to Ukraine to defend the Ukrainian civilians while we turn a blind eye to the devastating impact that our policies are having on innocent civilians at the border. I don't know what the solution is. It's not my job. It's outside of my skill set to be, you know, to say this is what needs to be done. But I think I can join in with the vast majority of Americans to say that something needs to be done. And I can say that my experience shows that that something cannot be using the U.S. military because that will only create more problems and it will result in dead Americans. And that's something I'm vehemently opposed to. I am a former Marine. I love our military, but the moment our military is in the business of pointing a weapon and pulling a trigger at an American citizen, then it has to cease to exist because that's not what the military exists to do. It's there to defend us, not to attack us.
Okay. Let's switch gears. Final question. This one's a little bit fun, but nonetheless, it's in the news just today. A military whistleblower has come forward and is willing to testify to Congress and, if not to the media, that the United States military is in possession of non-human aircraft, out of this world aircraft. Some of them, they have the vehicle itself. Others, they say they have the non-human life form that maneuvered that vehicle, and that now there is a secret arms race to reverse engineer the capability of these aerial vehicles. Do you think there's any credibility to this story? And if it did have any credibility, would this be the first thing the military would do, would be to quietly try to reverse engineer the technology for our advantage?
Wow. What was that? The X-Files. This is straight out of the X-Files. Look, I don't want to get, I don't want to alienate people. Do I believe that we are the sole intelligent life form in this this huge universe that we have? No, I don't believe that. That doesn't mean that I'm turning my back on religion. I'm not rejecting Christianity or any other form of religion. I'm just saying that, that I think whatever what we call God, he is fully capable of having intelligent life form elsewhere in this universe.
It's a big universe.
It's a huge universe. So right off the bat, I can't reject this by saying I just think fundamentally it's impossible that could ever happen. Do I know of this happening? Look, I was an intelligence officer that had very high classification, but my classification didn't get me into Area 51, which is a place in Nevada where some sensitive technologies are tested, and it would seem to be a likely place where alien technology could exist to be exploited. Would this be the first thing that the U.S. military would do? You're darn right it would. The job of the U.S. military is to protect the United States and to some extent to protect our allies from threats. If we don't know if this is indeed an alien life form with alien technology, we don't know if it's friendly or threatening. We don't know what the potential is, and it would be irresponsible not to try and understand, the capabilities of this, and in order to build a defense against it. And once we understand it, to see if we can absorb those lessons into our own military capabilities. And if let's just be honest, if this is a technology done by a non-human life form, that means that they're 400 billion times smarter than we are, because somehow they got from there to here, and we can't get from here to there. We're having trouble getting back to the moon. So, this is a very advanced technology, and we would benefit from being able to decipher it. And then you get a national security standpoint, because if we feel that it's in our interest to know this technology, then we have to also feel that we can't allow other nations to know this before we know it, because then they acquire a strategic advantage over us. So we have to assume that if we have access to this technology, that other nations have access to this technology. So I guess that's a long way of saying two things. One, I don't know anything about this, and this is just speculation based upon what you have told me. B, or two, it seems plausible. I mean, it's not implausible. I can't reject it. And if he says that he has this information, I'd be interesting to see if Congress. Because understand this. Here's the other curious thing. How many times has the Department of Justice shut down a prosecution of somebody by saying that we can't allow them to testify because of classified information? All the time. Many times people go before Congress and say, I want to testify on this, that, and the other thing. And Congress can't because of the classification. So let's see how this guy is treated.
Yeah.
Because I can guarantee you that if he has this information, first of all, even speaking about it right now should get him arrested instantly. He shouldn't be even allowed to hint that this exists. He would have had to sign non-disclosure agreements and all that. And Congress, trust me, Congress would not. There's no whistleblower clause for classification of this level. So the fact that you and I are talking about this leads me to believe that this is not what it seems to be. Because if it was, this guy would never be allowed to talk at all. He would have. Remember when Vanunu, he's an Israeli citizen who spoke about the Israeli nuclear program. He's the guy who released the photographs and everything. What did the Israeli government do? They arrested him. They prosecuted. They imprisoned him. They've gone out of their way to shut him up. So, and that's just about nuclear weapons. Imagine we're talking